I just went to the eye doctor's today for my annual checkup, so if I have a little trouble focusing, please bear with me. As we all know, summer is lamentably gone, but I still have a couple of swimming summer poems rattling around in my brain like the pebbles you get in your sandals. And so I thought I'd get them out of my system by reading them. They're very short, just little metaphors. I hope they're fun. The first one is called Lifeguard. She perches atop a tall white chair. Her nose and high cheekbones are daubed white and reflect the glare of the sun. Behind her dark glasses, she breathes deeply and evenly. Her bare toes clutch and unclutch a white rung like talons. That's all. Just an image. Just an image. This next one's a little more fun, but just as short. It's called The Gorgeous Blonde in the Motel Swimming Pool. The gorgeous blonde in the motel swimming pool, doing the breaststroke is, to God's one eye, a bacterium on a microscope slide. Infinitely tiny, short-lived, possibly even deadly, in that red bikini. It's a little more fun, I think. Death, yeah. The next poem that I'd like to read is actually a poem I wrote some years ago. I'm a Yank. I don't understand soccer. When I was watching the World Cup, I became a little bit confused, maybe even a little bit irritated about all the faking of injuries that was going on all the time. These guys lying down on the soccer pitch, on the grass, trying to get attention to themselves, right? And of course, for the World Cup, all the cameras focus on these guys grabbing their shins or their backs or whatever in agony. So I started to write a poem about that, and it kind of morphed into something weirder and even a little weirder. And then recently I decided, I looked at the poem again. I wasn't satisfied with the ending, so I actually got a little bit inspired and did a new ending for it. And my only caution is to understand the very last line of the poem. You have to try and recall your high school French, if you all had high school French. You have to know a certain number, which is the most famous number, as I understand it, in the French language. But we'll get there at the end. It's called Pietà. A young man bowed politely. His head snapped off at the stem. The head hit the ground with a thud. The young man kicked the head. The head bounced away, bounced politely into the lap of a girl. The girl was sitting in the grass. She cradled the head and stroked it. The body without its head staggered in the distance. The girl watched its blind feints and lunges. She asked the head if it wanted its body back. Not quite yet, said the head. Let it wander around a little. It will go to pieces once it realizes what it's lost. Let's wait and watch it come groveling back. It always puts on quite a show. And the head liked the girl's lap. It liked being cradled and stroked without its body parts getting in the way. It liked being the center of attention. Sooner or later, the rest of the body would grope its way back to them. Sooner or later, it must tumble upon their intimacy. See, said the head, Already the young man's arm was crawling toward them in the grass. The fingers of the hand clutched the grass and dragged the arm after it. Not far behind it, a leg came bounding along gamely and drunk-like, but bounding along nevertheless. Somewhere in the distance, the torso lay writhing in the grass. As soon as it learned to sit up, it toppled over again, but in this way discovered a method of locomotion proper to its kind. Clumsy, clownish, in breathtaking somersaults of slow urgency, it too would come. Last of all would come the young man's cock and balls. How it inched forward in the grass would remain a mystery, but come it would. It would come because desire is shameless in its naked persistence. Because the blunders of instinct, once set in motion, are unerring. Because of cock and balls creeping forward in the grass, moving without seeming to move, but closing in all the same, is a marvel no brave girl has ever yet been able to resist picking up and cradling in the palm of her hand. "Wait," said the head. "Hey, I got here first." Said the head, "Enough." But already it was too late. Already had the girl lifted the cock and balls to her lips. In despair, the head buried its face in her lap, buried its face there in blubbers of rage amid childlike snuffles, princess and frog prince and French wet kisses. In the grass, even today, you can find their fairy tale statue above a simple plaque that reads, "69." You know French? Even certain perversions deserve their origin myths, I guess. Okay, this is my most recent poem, and it's a prose poem. I'm not too sure what to say about it. There's a female character in here that reminds me of a few women I've known in my life and a few I've read about in books. Anyhow, it's called Tea with a God. I was having tea with the god of all deformities, a perfectly hideous fellow with all sorts of Mayan glyph bling going on and off inside his mouth instead of teeth, but not without a dash of old world gentleman charm about him too. He had been around. The conversation tacked in the direction of beauty and the problem of heaven. Where would all the good, ugly people go when they died, I wanted to know. Certainly not to heaven. No one ever saw a picture of heaven with mug-ugly angels strumming harps up there. And surely they didn't deserve hell just because they were so bloody homely. Perhaps their inner beauty could be squeezed out of them like a tube and used to paint them over until they looked transfigured or such like. The god of all deformities sat bemused and sipped his tea past his ruined lips. Just then his auburn raceabout of a wife sailed in and dropped anchor. She was a knockout. I mean a real bombshell. You couldn't not stare at her. And existential as all get out. She didn't buy into heaven or hell or any of that. This was odd, coming from the wife of a god. "Oh, he believes in all that stuff all right," she said. "Has to. And look what it's done to his complexion and his choppers. Still," she added, "he's a god for all that, and gets to go to bed with a ravishing slash like me every night. Darling," she turned to the god of all deformities, "do be a good god of all deformities, and don't look at me that way." Okay. Thank you very much.